Okay, so hi, my name is Oscar Lazaro. I'm presenting on the economic feasibility of mitigating methane emissions by supplementing Cowfeed with seaweed. So I'm one of two student researchers. I'm here at the University of Clear Lake. I'm an environmental management student. Um, my timer may not be working. Okay, here we go. Well, I'll introduce you to the team. Everybody knows Dr. Garland pretty well by now, I think. I actually met Sarah Bingham, my research partner in her class, and Dr. Garland really helped us get this proposal together, commit to the project, and recruit Professor Trubel, who has been really helpful to us and helped us navigate the complexities of dealing with vertebrates. So this is a study on cows. It's actually, in terms of a study, pretty simple. It's straightforward. It's a really basic feasibility study that tests more or less the cost benefit of implementing this technology that seems to show some promise. A lot of methane mitigation efforts right now focus on oil and gas. So this is one of the first gaps in the literature that I started seeing, both in the literature and public policy, is that a lot of people see methane flares as kind of the key issue to tackle in terms of methane mitigation. So this is a good illustration of methane emissions in the United States. Also as a percentage of greenhouse emissions overall. So what really got me thinking about this proposal was being in the environmental management program and seeing the global warming potential of each different greenhouse gas that we're familiar with. So right now there's a lot of efforts to really kind of quantify and track leaks of methane through programs like the Environmental Defense Fund's methane satellite. So I noticed a lot of focus on that. There's a lot of actual work being done in that area, but not so much being done in sectors like the agricultural sector. So the agricultural sector is actually a pretty close second in terms of total emissions of methane in the United States. And when you factor in its potential as a greenhouse gas, the impact's pretty significant. And I noticed that there really isn't a whole lot of work being done. So I was wondering, as I was forming these questions, why that is. It seems to have a lot of potential in terms of impact, ways of kind of reducing our contribution to climate change. It seems like a fairly simple thing to tackle when you think about it in terms of, just being as simple as altering feed for a fairly large industry. This is something that we participate, most of us, on a daily basis. This is a huge opportunity in terms of scale of impact. How many people consume beef? And I started seeing that there's actually a potential of up to 80 to 90% reduction in methane if you use the right varieties of seaweed. So this is red seaweed. This seems to be the one that gets you the most bang for your buck. There's a lot of there's actually a good amount of research on the effectiveness and a little bit of understanding of the general mechanism of how this works and how we reduce the emissions in a cow's digestive system. But it varies a lot. So I started to notice that the actual reduction rate varies a lot depending on what variety of seaweed you're dealing with. So there's a lot of cows in the United States. And I started to see in the literature that this actually doesn't require a lot of seaweed. So this requires at a maximum about 3 to 5 ounces of seaweed per day per cow. So as we were getting this proposal through, we were waiting to hear back, and COP26 happened, and it kind of spurred an interest in the media and in policy in general. And I started seeing more articles on seaweed. So I started to realize that this was getting traction, but COP26 also kind of reaffirmed that oil and gas is the priority. So oil and gas is the priority. This is where our resources are going. This is where our public policy is really focused. And that's great. There's a lot of really good reasons for that. But it also leaves the question as to why we're not focusing on the cows. So my perspective was that cows might be less difficult and I'd say there could be less regulatory hurdles and less opposition to this particular industry. Oil and gas is very well funded. They're very organized. They're kind of known for pushing against regulations. But this slide I put in here because the obvious solution to me, I wanted to acknowledge, is to not eat meat. So if our total consumption is zero, if the methane produced is zero, then we don't really have the issue. An alternative solution that I saw is anaerobic digesters. So this is a technology that's being deployed in California, and there's a lot of different arguments for and against it. But one thing that struck me about this particular method is that it doesn't reduce methane emissions so much as it almost incentivizes the use of them. So what you're doing is you're capturing methane and you're burning it and you're converting it into carbon dioxide. So it's not exactly attacking the issue at the production level. So when you're talking about actually producing and emitting methane, so this brought up a lot of questions. If it takes relatively little seaweed to get up to 80 to 90% reduction in methane in an industry that's as large as the agricultural industry, why aren't we doing it? What are the barriers? What's stopping us from capitalizing on this and really investing in it? So that's kind of where this study was taking shape. We were trying to figure out what the implications would be. The goal is to have this be the beginning in research that quantifies the benefit and really assesses the potential economically. So that's all of my time, but thank you all so much.